The two words you use most casually, I am, are the name of God, not a God above you, not a deity you must approach through ritual or prayer or the intercession of others. The name of the creative power that underlies all of reality. And it is the name you use every time you say anything about yourself at all. I am tired, I am not enough, I am unlucky, I am stuck, or I am healthy, I am loved, I am the person for whom doors open. Every time you complete the statement I am with anything at all, you are putting on a garment, you are stepping into a state, you are setting the creative power of consciousness, the only creative power there is, into motion. Most people spend their entire lives clothing I am in the observations of the current moment. They look at what is around them and say, I am what my circumstances suggest I am. I am what my history has made me. I am what other people have decided I am. And so they crystallize those very things again and again with the most powerful creative force in existence. What I am going to teach you in this next hour is the foundation of everything I ever taught. Not a technique, not a tool, the foundation, the understanding that, once it takes root in you, changes the way you use the two most powerful words in any language. What you will discover is not merely a teaching. It is a revelation about who you actually are. Let me tell you briefly who I am and why I stand before you on this matter with the confidence I have. My name is Neville Goddard. I was born in Barbados in 1905, the fourth of 9 children. I came to New York as a young man to study theater. I had no interest in metaphysics, no background in scripture, no preparation for the path that would consume the rest of my life. But in 1933, I met a teacher, an Ethiopian rabbi named Abdullah, who showed me that the Bible was not a history of an ancient people, but a psychological drama, a map of the inner man. And at the center of that map, he told me, was the name of God. I spent the next 4 decades examining this teaching, testing it, using it, watching it work in my own life and in the lives of thousands of people who came to my lectures. The details of those results, the crystallizations of assumption, I could tell you stories all day, but I am not going to do that today. Today I am going to give you the thing beneath all of those stories, the root. The foundational principle without which all technique is a shell, all practice is emotion without substance. I am. In this hour, we are going to follow this thread all the way down. We are going to see where it leads in scripture, in experience, and in the practical art of becoming someone whose outer world reflects their deepest intention. By the end of this hour, you will understand, in a way you have not before, why you are precisely where you are and how to be somewhere different. Not by effort, not by manipulation of the outer world, by changing what follows the words I am in the deepest chamber of your consciousness. This is the hour that changes everything if you let it. Let us begin with the scripture, because scripture is where I always begin, and I do not mean the surface story but the psychological depth beneath it. When Moses asked God for a name, asked the presence speaking to him from the burning bush for an identity by which it could be known, the answer that came back was this: I am that I am. Tell them I am has sent you. This has been interpreted for centuries as a theological declaration, a statement of divine self-sufficiency, and in the conventional reading, it is exactly that. God says, I simply am. My existence requires no explanation, no derivation, no prior cause. But I want you to hear something in this passage that the conventional reading misses entirely. God does not say, my name is Yahweh or El, or any of the other names by which I am known in your tradition. God says, my name is I am, and then sends Moses back to the people with that name, I am has sent you, as though the people will know exactly what this means. Now, what is the one thing every human being, regardless of culture, language, era, or understanding, says constantly, in every possible context? I am. Every statement of being, every self-declaration, every feeling you inhabit with the words I am, every one of these is a use of the divine name. Every one of these is a creative act performed by the only creative power there is. This is not a metaphor. This is the literal teaching. The I in I am is not your personality. It is not your history. It is not what others think of you or what circumstances have made you. The I in I am is the pure awareness you inhabit before any label is attached, the simple fact of your being, That simple fact of being, that pure awareness, is God. Not like God, not a piece of God. It is the I am of the burning bush, wearing the costume of a particular human life in a particular time and place. You are imagination, and imagination creates reality. And the tool of that creative imagination is the I am, the state you inhabit when you complete the sentence with any quality, any feeling, any assumption. Now let me show you why this matters practically. When you say I am broke, you are not describing a condition. You are clothing the creative power of consciousness in the state of being broke, and that state, inhabited with feeling, crystallizes the world around you to reflect it. Not because the universe is punishing you for your negative thinking, because this is the law of consciousness operating without sentiment or exception. The same is true when you say I am unloved, or I am stuck, or I am not the kind of person who succeeds. These are not observations. These are creative declarations made with the most powerful creative force in existence, and they work. That is the disturbing truth. They work perfectly. They crystallize exactly the reality they declare. But notice, this means the law itself is not against you. The law is impersonal. It responds to whatever you clothe the I am in. It has been faithfully crystallizing your current reality from your current assumptions. Which means, and this is the liberating truth at the heart of everything I teach, you can change what you clothe the I am in, and the law will crystallize that instead. This is not positive thinking. Positive thinking asks you to repeat positive statements while your deep subconscious remains clothed in the old assumption. What I am talking about is something altogether different. I am talking about the genuine, felt, inhabited state, the deep assumption beneath the surface that gives the I am its actual content. The surface statement you make consciously is not the one that carries the most creative weight. The statement your whole being makes, the assumption so deep it feels like fact, so habitual it feels like truth, so automatic you barely notice it anymore, that is the I am that the law responds to, and that assumption can change. That is the entire teaching. That is the good news beneath every technique I ever offered. The assumption can change, and when it does, the world it has been crystallizing must change with it. I want to spend this hour taking you all the way into this, because most people understand it as a concept and still wonder why their life has not changed. The gap between understanding and inhabiting is where the real work lives. And by the time we are done today, I want that gap to be narrow for you, very narrow. We have established the foundation. I am is not a phrase. It is the name of the creative power that underlies all of reality. Every time you complete that name with any quality or state, you are clothing the creative power of consciousness in that state. And the law, which is perfect and impersonal, crystallizes that state in the world around you. The question is not whether this is true. The question is, what is your I am currently clothed in, and what would you have it clothed in instead? We are about to go deeper into both questions. What I am going to show you next will change the way you hear your own thoughts permanently. There are two levels of the I am, and most people live almost entirely at the first without knowing the second exists. The first level is the conscious I am, the statements you make deliberately with your conscious attention. These are the affirmations, the intentions, the goals, the things you say you are or want to be. They have a role. But alone they are insufficient because they operate at the surface while the second level operates below. The second level is the habitual I am, the deep, automatic, felt assumption about who you are that runs beneath your conscious thoughts like a current beneath the surface of a river. This is the assumption you formed in childhood, in formative experiences, in moments of intensity when the world taught you something about yourself and your place in it. It does not announce itself. It does not form itself into words most of the time. It is simply the quality of what it feels like to be you. And this habitual I am is what the law responds to most powerfully. This is why affirmations alone often fail. You say I am wealthy with your conscious mind, while your habitual I am, the deep felt assumption says, quietly and without drama, no, you are not. You have never been. You will not be. The law hears both. But the habitual assumption, with its accumulated years of feeling behind it, carries far more creative weight than the conscious statement. So the work, the real work, is not to memorize a new set of affirmations. The work is to change the habitual I am, to genuinely shift at the felt level what it seems like to be you. This is not a small thing. I will not pretend it is a small thing. Habitual assumptions have roots. They were formed over years, sometimes decades. They are reinforced each day by the world they have crystallized because the world reflects the assumption, and the reflected world then seems to confirm the assumption, and the confirmation deepens the assumption further. It is a self-reinforcing loop, and this is the critical point, the loop can be interrupted, and it can be interrupted deliberately from the inside with nothing but the imaginative faculty you already possess. Here is how the interruption happens. You begin with the felt sense of the desired I am, not the statement of it, the felt sense of it. What does it actually feel like in your body, in your quality of being, in the way you look out at the world, to be the person who is already what you desire to be? This requires imagination, not pretense. You are not telling yourself you already have something you do not have. You are genuinely reaching into the felt quality of what it would be like if you were already the person you desire to become. The physical sensation, the quality of the eyes when they look out from a place of sufficiency rather than lack, the way the body holds itself when the assumption underneath it is abundance rather than scarcity, love rather than isolation, capacity rather than limitation. Find that felt quality, not the words for it, not the concept of it, the actual felt quality, and then inhabit it as deliberately and completely as you inhabit a room when you walk through the door. This is what I mean when I say, the state you occupy determines the world you see. The state is the felt I am, and the world, the outer world that appears solid and independent, is the mirror of that state. I want to tell you something from my own experience that I have witnessed many times in many people. When someone genuinely shifts their habitual I am, when the deep assumption changes, the world around them does not change slowly, through gradual accumulation. It reorganizes, often quickly, often in ways that defy ordinary probability. The person who has been looking for work for months and genuinely inhabits the I am of someone whose gifts are valued and sought finds, within days sometimes, that something shifts. An opportunity appears from a direction they were not looking. A connection is made that should not have been made. A door opens that was not there before. This is not luck. This is the law of consciousness responding to the change in the habitual I am with the same faithfulness it has always shown, the same faithfulness by which it maintained the previous condition while the previous assumption held. The law does not change. What changes is what you are asking it to do. I want now to address something that always comes up at this point in the teaching, because I have taught this for 30 years, and the question is always the same. The question is, if I am is God, if I am the creative power of consciousness wearing a human costume, then why have I created such difficulty for myself? Why would God create poverty, illness, isolation? This is a profound question, and it deserves a direct answer. You did not create these things with malicious intention or as punishment. You created them with unconscious assumption, the habitual I am you formed without knowledge of the law. You are doing what every human being does before they encounter this teaching, assuming that the outer world is cause and consciousness is effect, assuming that you must deal with reality as it is, that reality operates independently of what you hold in consciousness. And from that assumption, you crystallized a world that confirmed it, a world in which circumstances appeared primary and you appeared small within them. This is not God punishing you. It is God, which is you faithfully doing what I am always does, creating what it inhabits. The teaching does not change your nature. You have always been the creative power. You have always been doing this. The teaching simply wakes you up to what you have been doing so you can do it deliberately. What you desire, you already are in eternity. The desired state exists. The question is only whether you will inhabit it. We have gone into the two levels of the I am, the conscious level, which is where affirmations live, and the habitual level, the deep felt assumption, which is where the law actually operates. We have seen that the work is not to change the surface statement, but to genuinely shift the felt quality of being. Now, in part 2 of the core teaching, I am going to take you into the specific mechanics of how that shift happens. How do you actually change the habitual I am? What is the inner process? And what obstacles will you encounter? And how do you meet them? This is the deepest part of today's teaching. Stay present. The habitual I am changes through what I will call the practice of identification. Identification is different from affirmation. Affirmation says, I am wealthy. Identification is the inner act of actually becoming, in felt imagination, the person who is wealthy. Of so thoroughly stepping into the felt quality of that state that, for the duration of the imaginal act, there is no longer a you who is wanting wealth. There is only the you who already is. This is a more demanding act than affirmation. It requires that you leave your current state behind for the duration, that you actually release the felt sense of the current condition, the tension of lack, the weight of what is not yet here, and genuinely enter the felt sense of the wish already fulfilled. Most people, when they attempt this, discover an immediate obstacle. The obstacle is not the difficulty of imagining. The obstacle is the attachment to the current state. This sounds paradoxical. Why would you be attached to a state you are trying to leave? But consider carefully. The habitual I am, the deep assumption of your current condition, is familiar. It is known. It is safe in the way that the familiar is always safe, even when the familiar is painful. The mind knows how to navigate it. The strategies for dealing with it are well worn. The explanations for why it persists are fully developed. The new state, the desired I am, is unknown. The mind does not yet know how to navigate it. There are no established habits of thought and response within it. It has no history in your experience of this life. And so the attempt to step into the new state is met, very often, by a subtle but powerful pulling back toward the old one. Not a dramatic resistance, simply a quiet return to familiar ground. This is the primary obstacle in changing the habitual I am, and the primary practice in addressing it is what I have always called persistence. Not the persistence of effort trying harder each time you fail, but the persistence of return coming back, again and again, to the felt quality of the desired state, until the new state becomes as familiar as the old one was. Think of it this way. You are not demolishing the old state. You are building a new one beside it and inhabiting the new one so consistently, so feelingly, that it gradually becomes the habitual one. And the old one, no longer inhabited, no longer fed by your attention and feeling, gradually loses the charge that made it seem like the only truth. This is not quick for most people. I will not tell you it is quick, but it is possible. And the rate at which it happens is determined almost entirely by the depth of feeling you bring to the new state when you inhabit it. Feeling is the secret. I have said this many times. And I want to be very specific about what I mean by feeling in this context. I do not mean emotion in the ordinary sense. I do not mean excitement, happiness, or euphoria. These emotions are responses to things happening in the outer world, and they do not, by themselves, carry the creative weight I am describing. The feeling I mean is what I would call the feeling of being, the quality of what it is to inhabit a particular state. The way the world appears when you look out from it, the texture of the assumption, the quality of certainty that belongs to something you know rather than something you hope for. When you know something, not believe it, know it, there is a specific feeling that accompanies that knowing. A settled quality, a doneness. The matter is not in question. The outcome is not uncertain. It simply is. That quality of knowing, that settled, certain quality, is the feeling I am asking you to cultivate when you identify with the desired I am. Not the excitement of someone who hopes they will receive, the settled certainty of someone who already has. And here is where I want to go into something that most people do not understand about the I am and the question of self-concept. Your habitual I am is not just a collection of specific beliefs about specific things. I am not wealthy, I am not loved, I am not capable. It is more unified than that. It has a quality, a tone, that suffuses all of those specific beliefs, a general sense of who you are in the world, a baseline assumption about your place in the order of things. When you change specific beliefs without changing this general tone, the change is often temporary. The new specific belief sits in the old soil and eventually reverts to conform to the overall quality of the field. This is why I have always taught that the foundation must be addressed, not the symptoms. And the foundation is this: what do you deeply, genuinely, below the surface of all your conscious efforts, assume yourself to be? Do you assume yourself to be someone who deserves what they desire? Who is capable of having it? Who is the kind of person around whom good things naturally occur? Or do you, below the surface of your affirmations and techniques and sincere efforts, assume that somehow for you, the law does not quite fully apply? That you are adjacent to the teaching but not quite at the center of it? I tell you from my own experience, the law applies fully to everyone, without exception. The one who believes they are at the center of it and the one who believes they are adjacent to it will both crystallize their assumption, and both will interpret the result as confirmation. So the deepest work of the I Am is not specific, it is general. It is the cultivation of the basic assumption: I am the kind of being around whom the law works fully and faithfully. I am not the exception. I am not the special case for whom certain things are simply not available. I am without condition, without limitation, without exception. This is the burning bush. This is the voice that speaks from it. Not the God of a particular tribe or tradition. The God that is the awareness within you before any label is applied. And that awareness, your I Am, is the foundation of all creation. The specific desires, the money, the love, the health, the career, these are the contents. The I Am is the container, and the container must be large enough to hold what you desire. Most people work on the contents. They imagine specific outcomes, specific scenes, specific results, and they wonder why the outer world does not change as quickly as they feel it should. The reason, very often, is that the container has not changed. The general assumption of who they are, the baseline I Am, is still the old one. And the new specific imaginal acts are being performed by someone who, at the deepest level, still assumes themselves to be the old self. The practice then is twofold. Continue your specific imaginal acts, your state akin to sleep, your scenes of the wish fulfilled. They are essential, but alongside them, address the general tone, the baseline assumption, the felt sense of who you are in the world. Spend time daily, consistently, in the felt quality of being someone for whom the law is fully operative, someone who is deeply aligned with the creative power of the I Am, not arrogantly, not as performance, simply as a felt recognition of the truth of your own nature. You are imagination, and imagination creates reality. This is not an aspiration, it is a description of what you already are. The practice is simply to feel it as true, until feeling it as true is as natural and effortless as breathing. We have covered the two levels of I Am. We have covered the practice of identification, genuinely inhabiting the felt quality of the desired state rather than merely affirming it. We have covered the obstacle of attachment to the familiar and the practice of persistence in return. And we have gone into the deepest teaching, the general tone, the basic assumption about who you are that either enables or undermines all specific imaginal work. Now I am going to take you into the practical application, and then the guided visualization, and then, at the end, a teaching that I rarely gave in my lectures, something that belongs only to those who are ready. Stay with me. The practical application of the I Am teaching begins with an honest inventory. I want you to sit quietly after this, not now, but after, and ask yourself, with complete honesty, what do I actually believe about myself below the surface? What is the quality of my habitual I Am, not what you want it to be? Not what you know it should be after everything you have studied. What does it actually feel like to be you, in the quiet, in the moments when you are not performing positivity for yourself or others? This inquiry requires honesty that most people find uncomfortable, because the gap between what we know we should believe and what we actually believe at the habitual level is often significant. And acknowledging that gap, seeing it clearly, is the necessary beginning of changing it. If you notice that your habitual I Am carries the tone of I am someone things don't quite work out for, acknowledge it. If it carries I am someone who keeps trying but keeps falling short, acknowledge it. If it carries I am someone who is close to the good things but never quite receives them, acknowledge it. The acknowledgement is not defeat, it is diagnosis. You cannot change what you do not see. Once you see the habitual I Am clearly, the practice has two components that work together. The first component is the I Am session. Once each day, ideally in the morning, before the world's events have colored your consciousness, take 10 minutes to sit quietly and inhabit the felt quality of the desired I am. Not a specific outcome, not a scene of a wish fulfilled. Simply the quality of being the person around whom the law works fully, the felt sense of being someone who is deeply, genuinely, naturally in alignment with the creative power of consciousness. Sit in that quality. Let it permeate. Let it be the tone from which you begin the day. You may have to build this slowly. The first few attempts may feel flat, forced, unconvincing. That is natural. You are trying to inhabit a state that is not yet habitual. It will feel like a new room feels, unfamiliar, slightly uncomfortable. Stay with it, not with force, with patient, faithful return. Over days and weeks, you will notice the quality becoming more accessible, the felt sense of it arriving more quickly, the tone beginning to carry through into your daily activities, coloring the way you move through the world, the way you encounter other people, the way you hold yourself in moments of decision. This is the habitual I am beginning to change. This is the most important change that can happen in a human life. The second component is the daily audit. At the end of each day, spend 5 minutes reviewing the I am statements you made that day. Not the explicit ones, you rarely say I am deliberately. The implicit ones, the felt assumptions you inhabited in various situations. When you encountered difficulty, what did your habitual I am say? When the relationship showed a moment of strain, what assumption did you instantly fall into? When something was tighter than you wanted it to be, what did you feel yourself to be in that moment? This audit is not about guilt. It is about noticing. The habitual I am is automatic. The first step to changing it is simply to see it operating, to catch it in the act, the way you would catch a habitual physical posture you did not know you held. Once you see it operating, you can practice the substitute. In the same way that you would catch yourself hunching and consciously straighten your spine, catch the limiting I am and consciously step into the desired one. Even briefly, even for 60 seconds, feel the quality of the better assumption, then return to your day. This substitution, practiced consistently, accumulates. Each brief inhabiting of the desired I am adds to the new groove you are carving in the deep subconscious. The groove deepens over time. The old one becomes less automatic. And one day, often suddenly, in a way that takes you by surprise, you realize that the old I am no longer seems like the truth. The new one does. That is the day everything changes. Not in a dramatic outer event, though outer events will follow. In the inner recognition that you are no longer the person you were. The assumption has genuinely shifted. The habitual I am is the new one now. And from that point forward, the crystallization of assumption proceeds from a different center. Everything begins to build from the new foundation. I want to say something about patience here because I know the question in your mind. How long does this take? I will not give you a number because the time varies for every person and every desire. What I will tell you is this: the time it takes is exactly the time required for the habitual assumption to genuinely change. Not the time required to say the new thing convincingly, the time required to feel it as true. Some people who are ready, people in whom the resistance is already loose, change rapidly. Within days or weeks, their world begins to reorganize. Others require months of consistent practice, and a few require longer, because the habitual I am they are working to change was formed in conditions of great difficulty and has decades of feeling behind it. All of this is workable. All of it is within the scope of the law. The law does not discriminate by the depth of the wound or the age of the assumption. It responds to the new I am the moment the new I am is genuinely inhabited. Your job is simply to inhabit it genuinely, not perfectly, not constantly, genuinely, with real feeling as often as you can, as consistently as you can, until it is no longer an act but a fact. Consciousness is the only reality, and you are consciousness with the full creative power of I am at your disposal. What you deeply assume yourself to be, you will become, not because of effort, because of law. Close your eyes, let the body settle. Let the weight of it find the ground beneath you. Shoulders drop, jaw unclenches, hands open. Take one slow breath. Let it go completely. Now I want you to do something simple. Simply become aware of your own awareness. The fact that you are here, present, conscious. The simple I am before any description is added. Just the awareness, just the being, just the I. Stay with that for a moment. The pure fact of your own existence. Now let the quality of the desired I am begin to arise. Not a statement, not words, simply a quality, a tone, a felt sense. What does it feel like to be someone who is fully in alignment with the creative power of consciousness? What does it feel like to be someone around whom the law works completely? Let the feeling come, slowly, gently. Perhaps it feels like spaciousness, room, ease. Perhaps it feels like solidity, foundation, something firm beneath the feet. Perhaps it feels like warmth in the chest, an opening, a sense of things being possible. Whatever quality arises, let it be. Let it fill the space. Now let the words I am arise within that quality, not as a declaration, as a recognition. I am, not followed by any descriptor yet, simply the bare statement of being, clothed in this quality of fullness. Let it settle. I am, and the creative power of consciousness moves with me. I am, and what I inhabit, I create. I am, and what I assume, I crystallize in the world around me. Let these not be words you speak. Let them be facts you recognize, truths you feel in the body, not just the mind. Now let one thing you desire arise within this quality of I am, not as something you are hoping for, as something you are, as something already inhabited within this state. Let it be quiet, ordinary, already so. Stay here. Let the quality of the desired I am be simply what it feels like to be you, right now, in this moment. Breathe slowly. You do not need to rush back. Stay as long as this feels real. When your mind wanders, return gently, not to the words, but to the felt quality. The creative power of consciousness moves through what you inhabit. Stay in this quality. This is the work. This is the I am at work. Breathe. When you are ready, open your eyes, but try to carry this quality with you into the rest of your day. Let it be the tone. Let it be the foundation. I promised at the outset that I would take you somewhere today that the average treatment of this teaching would not take you. And I am going to keep that promise now. What I am about to share is something I spoke of rarely, not because I withheld it from anyone, but because most people who came to my lectures were not yet asking the question to which this is the answer. The question is, what is the relationship between the personal I am, your I am, the creative power of your individual consciousness, and the universal I am, the one consciousness that underlies all of reality? Here is the teaching that I believe is the most liberating thing I ever offered. They are the same, not similar, not related, the same. The I am that you experience as the center of your individual consciousness, the simple fact of your being before any description is added, is identical to the consciousness that underlies all of creation. There is not a universal I am out there somewhere and a personal I am in here. There is only I am, and it is what you are. This is what was meant, in my understanding of Scripture, by the teaching that Christ and the Father are one. Not the Christ of conventional theology, a singular historical figure, but the Christ of the deeper teaching, the imagination, the creative power, the I am in human form. You are not separate from the source of all creation. You are the source of all creation, individuated in this particular human experience. Now, I want you to feel what this actually means for your relationship to your desires. You are not a small being making requests of a large power and hoping to be heard. You are the power itself, in human form, temporarily clothed in the beliefs and assumptions of this particular life. When you desire something, the creative power is desiring it. When you imagine something fulfilled, the creative power is acting. When you inhabit the feeling of the wish already granted, the creative power of all creation is inhabiting that state. This is not arrogance. It is the deep structure of the teaching, and it changes the quality of the imaginal act from the inside. When you enter the state akin to sleep and begin your scene, you are not a small person hoping to attract a large result. You are the creative power itself, setting intention with the authority of I am. When you perform revision, when you go back to a past event and construct the better version, you are not pretending. You are the consciousness that underlies reality, exercising its rightful authority over what crystallizes in the world. When you inhabit the desired I am, the felt quality of the person you intend to become, you are not pretending to be something you are not. You are allowing what you always were to express through the particular costume of this life. The most important conversation you will ever have is the one you hold with yourself. And the deepest layer of that conversation is not the specific desires or the specific fears. It is the question of identity. Who do you take yourself to be? If the answer is a small person in a large world hoping things will improve, the law will crystallize that. If the answer is I am, the consciousness that underlies all of reality, temporarily and beautifully clothed in this human life, the law will crystallize that. The choice is always yours. The I am is always available. The law is always operative. What changes is what you present to it. I began today by telling you something that runs counter to everything the ordinary world assumes. That the two words you use most casually are the name of God. That every time you complete the statement, I am, with any quality at all, you are wielding the most powerful creative force in existence. I have taken you through the two levels of the I am, the conscious and the habitual, and shown you that the law responds most powerfully to the habitual one, the deep felt assumption, the general tone of your selfhood. I have given you the practice of identification, genuinely inhabiting the felt quality of the desired state, not as affirmation, but as the actual creative act, and the daily audit, seeing the habitual I am in operation so you can begin to change it. And I have taken you, finally, into the deepest teaching, that your personal I am and the universal I am are not two things, that you are not a small being petitioning a large power, that you are the power itself, clothed in a human life, with the full authority of I am behind every imaginal act you perform. What I want you to carry from this hour is not a technique, not a practice, even a recognition. You are imagination. Imagination creates reality, and the engine of that creation is the I am you inhabit, consciously, habitually, in the quiet of your own inner life. Change what follows the I am. Change it at the level of genuine feeling, genuine inhabiting, genuine identification. And the world, your world, the only world that concerns you, will change to reflect it. This is not a promise. This is the law. It has always been the law. It was the law before I taught it, and it will be the law long after these words are forgotten. The truth of the I am does not require your belief to operate. It requires only your conscious participation. We have covered a great deal together today. The name of God, the two levels of I am, the practice of genuine identification, the daily audit, the deepest teaching about what you actually are. I want to leave you with one instruction. Just one. Tonight, before you sleep, and in the morning, before the world begins, spend 5 minutes inhabiting the felt quality of the desired I am, not specific outcomes, not scenes of wishes fulfilled. Simply the felt quality of being the person for whom the law is fully operative, the person who is, at the deepest level, aligned with the creative power of consciousness. Do this for 30 days. I do not need to promise you anything about those 30 days. I will simply say, the law is the law. What you inhabit, you create. What you assume, you crystallize. The I am you consistently clothe with genuine feeling is the I am the world will reflect back to you. Begin tonight. Dare to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not just the specific wish, the general state of being someone whose wishes fulfill themselves naturally, as a matter of course, by the law of consciousness that is your birthright. If these teachings speak to something you have been reaching for, return here. There is always more. Come back when you are ready to go deeper.